Welcome to the Boomer Briefing Podcast, where we help you solve a critical business issue in 20 minutes or less. I'm your host, Jon Hubbard, shareholder and consultant here at Boomer Consulting. And with me today is Jacqueline Lombardo. Jacqueline, thank you for being on this episode of the podcast.
Thanks, Jon. It's great to be here.
Jacqueline is one of our project managers, and among other things, she helps manage all of our client relationships, honestly, client projects, client relationships, and both internally as well with projects we have going on. So really, I think the topic we have to discuss here, Jacqueline, is how a project manager can really benefit firms. You know, as firms evolve to offering more advisory and consulting services, and the diversity of their services just get broader and broader, I think we're really seeing the highlighted need for the role of project management within firms. So to get us started, Jacqueline, can you briefly explain the role of a project manager?
Absolutely. So the role of a project manager is really focused on planning, organizing, and directing the completion of projects for an organization while trying to help ensure that these projects stay on time, on budget, and within the scope. So project managers typically oversee projects within a life cycle. So that can consist of initiating the project, planning the project, executing the project, monitoring, controlling, and finally closing out that project. But the exact duties for a project manager are really going to depend on your industry, your organization, and the types of project you want that project manager to oversee. So a project could be implementing a new technology for your firm. It could be launching a marketing campaign, documenting and developing processes within your firm, or anything really within your organization that involves managing and coordinating of activities that really need an end result. So some of the duties may change depending on what you're looking for in a project manager, but a lot of the skills are going to stay the same. So you're going to want somebody who is an effective communicator, somebody who has great time management skills, scheduling skills, critical thinking and problem solving skills, teamwork skills, and technical expertise. So that could be, they just need to know how to work a PM software or communication tools, or that could be more. So if you're looking for an IT project manager, they're going to need some different technical expertise skills that maybe you need to dig a little deeper into. But at the end of the day, the project manager really oversees your project from inception to completion. So it's going to help the firm reduce costs, maximize the company's efficiencies, increase revenue, and really just be the gatekeeper of all your projects that are going on and oversee and align that with your overall business strategy.
Yeah, I think, and that was a great explanation. Definitely much more comprehensive than I would have been able to answer, Jacqueline. But, among those benefits, among kind of that role, I think one reason we're seeing the need for project managers in firms, and both from a client perspective, but also internally, client-wise, more and more firms are finally starting to adopt the fact that clients are firm clients, not individual clients. And your target clients, your firm clients, are using multiple services from multiple departments with multiple contacts and things of that sort. Who's that dot connector? Who's the one that is truly managing that project, bringing in the right people at the right time to serve that client well? And then you did a great job explaining all the different types of internal projects happening as well. The project management skills you outlined are so critical and specific to successfully running projects that sometimes it's unfair for us to put on our teams internally those requirements. In addition to their day job, they're trying to run these projects that are really outside of their wheelhouse. And so I love your kind of explanation of that role, Jacqueline. So as firms think about hiring a project manager, even kind of determining what type of project manager they need, what tips do you have for firms as they think through this?
So I think you hit the nail on the head a little bit, Jon. So you talked about, it's not fair for teams to necessarily have to have all these skills, manage their client work, lead projects, they could be siloed. So I think one tip that's important, especially in the accounting profession, is that it's important that firms do not fall into the trap and think that they have to hire a CPA or somebody with accounting work or background. What you need is somebody with project management skills, and then the knowledge is going to follow. So that's one thing I definitely think is important. The other tip is internal alignment. So it's important to have a clear understanding of what you're actually looking for in a project manager. I don't know, a lot of people have gone into hiring and been like, oh, well, this is what we want. And then you have somebody else who thinks this is what they want. And it's just not aligned. And you get the wrong hire, you end up, losing money, having frustrations. So really sitting down as a team and seeing what are the skills the organization needs, where are the gaps? Do you want somebody with a certification like a PMP? Do you want them to have more of an agile or scrum background? What kind of projects are they going to be overseeing? Is it internal? Is it client? Is it both? So I know at Boomer, we do use a couple of resources for that. So we look at project filters. So that really helps our team sit down, define what we're looking for. What are the successes of this role? What are we wanting? And what's the cost of the organization if we don't hire this role? Colby's another one we use. I know, John, you're very versed in Colby, but Colby has some great skill assessments that can help kind of walk you through your hiring and see where you have misalignment or alignment internally. And then lastly, it's really important once you get that alignment and you're putting together that job description, that you're using language that's inclusive. So well-written job descriptions really going to speak to diverse applicants and leads with inclusive language. I think oftentimes we put together the job description and we don't really think about that. So that's a lot of stuff to get to that internal alignment. It's not always easy. But once you have that alignment, you get to do the fun stuff of hire, which I know in this market can be very, very tough. So that's where, leverage your internal people. Do you have a referral program? Your LinkedIn networks, colleges in your area, including community colleges. Do you have sororities or fraternities with alumni job boards? Or if you're really looking for a specialized skill, hire a recruiter who specializes in hiring a project manager. While it's money up front, it's going to save you money on the back end if you find the right hire. So there's a lot to make sure you're doing during those processes. But I think as you go through all of that, the other piece not to forget is that as you hire that project manager, how are they going to fit into your firm's culture? Because we always know culture is a big thing. So internal alignment and then hiring.
That's great. As I think about this, I love what you said at the very beginning about we don't need to put on a project management role these expectations or requirements that aren't actually in line with what we want out of that role. So saying that it needs to be a CPA or they need to have accounting firm experience isn't necessarily true. Because if that was true, then guess what? You probably wouldn't need one to begin with, but you actually do need one. And so knowing that, hey, if you bring your project management skills, your engagement management, project management skills to the table, you're going to learn all the ins and outs of how an accounting firm operates. And honestly, bringing in maybe that outside perspective they're going to be teaching the firm maybe how they should be thinking about that. The other thing I would add too to what you said, Jacqueline, was oftentimes this type of role is actually highly attractive to one or two people that are already in your firm, that maybe they don't want to be doing that technical work anymore, or they don't want to be, doing some of the roles that they're doing, but they're highly organized. They create order out of chaos, and they are able to grow and to move into a project management position. So don't overlook the skills you have internally that aren't being utilized. So you mentioned some of the benefits already, Jacqueline, through some of your answers in terms of, hey, what are some of the benefits of having a project manager? But any specific benefits you would like to highlight here?
Absolutely. To a lot of firms, especially in the accounting profession right now, hiring a project manager may seem like an unnecessary expense. But some anticipated results you could see are increased communication, and that's with team members and with key stakeholders and leadership. So a project manager is going to be that key point that can kind of bridge the gap between the team leaders and leadership and make sure things are moving forward. Projects are going to stay within budget and on time. I don't know how many times we've probably all thought this, like there's multiple projects going on, you're competing for resources. It goes over budget, over time. With a project manager, you have one person who can help kind of look at the whole picture and really move those items forward and the resources needed. Team building. A good project manager is not going to only move things forward, but they're going to be able to help boost morale. So if you have a tough week, they should be able to maybe, have a happy hour or something. Or if you're having a great week, celebrate the milestones, the wins of the project. So they're somebody who can really help build the team up and also bridge between departments. So that's the great thing. A lot of times projects get siloed. So now you have somebody who's pulling in people from the different departments, the right skills, the right knowledge, the expertise. Increased accountability. That word I know is something that comes out of a lot of things. You get to a project and what are you going to do next? Or you go to a training and how are you going to hold people accountable? So now you have that one person who's looking at that. But most importantly, it's going to remove admin tasks from leadership and team members. So they're going to be able to focus on the right things, the strategic things, the things they want to do, client focus. So a project manager, you can really have a lot of benefits. The one important thing though, I think with the results, if you hire a project manager, you also have to focus on change management. So within a firm, this is going to be a new role for a lot of organizations, and you have to have buy-in from the top. So the results are going to come, but depending on where your organization was in their journey of hiring, how you kind of do your work, there may be some change management that needs to happen starting at the very top of leadership. But John, I'd love to hear your thoughts because you spend a lot more time within firms and kind of any results you've seen from hiring a project manager.
Well, one I want to kind of hone in on that you said is kind of the bridge between departments. So one thing we've seen be really beneficial is not only is a project manager connecting the dots and making sure the left hand knows what the right hand is doing and getting departments to work together and all those things, which are extremely valuable and great. But from doing that, firms start to learn about the potential, the opportunity, the maybe some of the innovations ahead of them. Because for a lot of firms, this will be the first time they're working in that way, leveraging a project manager. And so they're going to be asking themselves questions. The project manager is going to be asking the team questions that maybe they haven't been asked before. And it's like, wow, there's a lot of opportunity here. And so I just get excited about that, which is kind of unknown of what will exactly develop within firms. But that is something I know our project management team here, you included, Jacqueline, have done for us. And that's really powerful. As you think about, one question we always ask on this podcast, or at least most of the time, is how is this topic relevant to outside the profession? Any comments you have related to that?
I mean, absolutely. Like nearly every industry, organization, department, can leverage a project manager to some degree. Just depending on your size of your organization, it may be a full-time project manager. It may be somebody, if you're a smaller organization, that maybe they've got kind of dual roles. But industries such as construction and IT, I mean, they've been leveraging project managers for years to manage their complex projects. So if anything, I really think the project manager role is really especially new to the accounting profession. And it's definitely a role that can feel unnecessary, expensive, or just overwhelming to even figure out where are we going to start with this. But the reality is any firm, any organization, any department can leverage a project manager. It's going to make you more productive, maximize your efficiencies, minimize your costs, and overall have happier clients, which lead to more work. And who doesn't want that?
Exactly. Yes. That's fantastic. And there's a lot of project managers, as you mentioned, in other industries that are looking for a change, right? Looking for a switch of industry. Maybe they're tired of the industry that they're in, but they want to keep doing project management, but in a different context, in a different area within a professional services organization. And so I think that's fantastic. So as we kind of round out our conversation here, Jacqueline, what are the next steps someone should take? Maybe someone's driving into the office, or maybe they're on a run right now. They're listening to the podcast and they're thinking, all right, as soon as this is over, I want to take some action here around this topic. What's your recommendation on next steps?
So a great first step for somebody or an organization who's never hired a project manager before is to develop a clear vision of why you're going to hire a project manager. Why is a project manager right for your firm? And you don't have to come up with that on your own. Leverage your human resource team or your human resources leader. They'll be able to help you identify, like, what skills are currently lacking in your team? Do you need somebody who's a strong scheduler or time manager? Do you need better communication? Do you need all of the above? We talked about the project filter. Look at what the impacts to your firm are if you don't hire a project manager. It's going to push you out of your comfort zone, and it's going to push the profession from saying, well, we've always done it that way, to pushing you to becoming the firm of the future, and really rethinking, how do we hire? Do all of our employees have to be CPAs? No, as we kind of talked about already. But even before you can move to hiring, if you don't have that alignment, you don't have that buy-in from leadership, it's going to be hard to move that forward. But also remember, you made a great point. There's project managers in many industries and some in the accounting profession already. So leverage your network, reach out to your peers, reach out to your peer networks, LinkedIn. You don't have to start from scratch. You can even look outside our industry to see, how did people get started? How did they get into the project management role? How did firms adopt a project manager? And that's going to really help build that internal alignment of why you need one.
That's great. So if someone wants to reach out to you, Jacqueline, and get in contact with you, maybe ask you a couple questions about this role. I know you've talked to many firms about this in the past. What's the best way for them to contact you?
Well, LinkedIn's always a great resource. Just look me up on LinkedIn, Jacqueline Lombardo, connect, message me. Email's another great one, jacqueline.lombardo@Boomer. If you don't remember that, just go to boomer.com and go to the Meet the Teams, and all my contact information's there as well.
Awesome. All right, Jacqueline. Well, thank you for being on this episode of the podcast. And for our listeners, we release new episodes every Tuesday morning. So if you enjoyed the conversation Jacqueline and I just had, please go ahead and subscribe. This week is about project management. Next week, it might be about technology or process or growth or talent, leadership. But the one common theme among all those topics is we believe they're critical to your firm's success and the evolution of your firm. So thanks for listening, and please subscribe. Thanks, Jacqueline.